So I have to welcome Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett to the Katie Phang News Channel. Congresswoman, it's good to see you.
It's great to see you, my friend.
So I want to start with Epstein. And I have been talking about it a lot, but I've also been saying that we can walk and chew gum at the same time. But I do think this Epstein issue needs to be addressed. And I'm glad that the Democrats are keeping it kind of front and center. But I want to play a clip of Donald Trump, convicted felon Donald Trump, who was found civilly liable for sexual abuse, among other things. I want to play this clip because he literally just said this on the tarmac. So we're going to play it right now, and we're going to have a question on the other side.
I know you've urged people to move on, but I'm curious, why do you think your supporters in particular have been so interested in the Epstein story and so upset about how it's been handled?
I don't understand it. Why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life. I don't understand what the interest or what the fascination is. I really don't. And the credible information's been given. Don't forget, we went through years of the Mueller witch hunt and all of the different things, the Steele dossier, which was all fake. All that information was fake. But I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going. I think really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. But credible information, let them give it. Anything that's credible, I would say, let them have it.
I mean, Congresswoman, there's a lot to unpack there. He's dead. Epstein wasn't a big factor in terms of life. He, of course, has to bring up the witch hunt because that's his favorite refrain to try to distract from what's going on. And of course, he wants to say it's fake news. And yet his own cabinet officials are saying that it's not fake news. But here's the thing. Credible information, if it's there, it should be given. Why are the Republicans jumping on this bandwagon of trying to block this information to be released to the American people?
Yeah, listen, this is yet another promise that he made and a promise that he broke. And this goes to the lack of transparency that we consistently see with this administration. Basically, they want to tell you what it looks like to be transparent without actually showing you real transparency. And, for him to say he's a non-factor, he never really was, when we can go and find pictures and pictures and pictures of the two of them together, that's a very interesting concept, right? This idea that he's a non-factor. Well, why were you hanging around with non-factors, Mr. President? What was that about, right? Honestly, I think that he's making it worse by deciding that all of a sudden, now that he seemingly is privy to everything that is in the files, now it's a matter of, I don't want to release it. So long as he was on the outside, I guess he just wasn't confident in the investigations and did not think that there was anything that necessarily linked him in, even though we know that there's video footage of people that were young at the time stating that they may have engaged in sexual activities with the president at some point in time. Even though, as you mentioned, this is somebody that was found liable for sexual abuse. This is someone that when it came down to the Miss USA pageants, there were concerns about things that he was doing with the young ladies and that kind of stuff. He is overall a creep. We know he's a creep. The question is he also a criminal in that way as well? And the fact that he is so adamant about not releasing the Epstein files, I think kind of answers the question. It's just amazing to me, though, that this is the thing that MAGA decided was just a bridge too far, right? It's wait a minute now, we had a lot of stuff.
And yet it totally makes sense that this is what MAGA world will be melting down over, right? I mean, it's kind of on brand for them to lose their shit over something like this.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, though. As we heard in this Trump clip that we just played, he said he has no problem with the, quote, credible information being released. The problem I have, though, is Pamela Joe, she's under his thumb. So the person who's going to gatekeep this information, which is Bondi, she's going to be the one who's going to decide what is, quote, credible. And you and I both know it's not going to be an independent, objective determination what's credible. It's only going to be what she wants to filter out. But if that's the case, then shouldn't, Dan Bongino come back to his job that taxpayers are paying for after he had his very public spat with Pam Bondi? I mean, shouldn't all of these people that said that they were calling for the release when they claimed it was a Democratic conspiracy not to release it, shouldn't they all now basically be on the bandwagon of saying, you know what, let's get it all out and let America decide what it means?
Yeah, I think, first of all, going back to something else that he said he's dead. All right, so if this is all just about the dead man and nothing else, then why wouldn't we release the entirety of it?
Yeah. Why would he not care, right? Why would he care, I'm sorry, about it coming out? I mean, look, I do think that Ro Khanna and others are doing the right thing by keep on pressuring on this point. It's clearly an Achilles heel for the Republicans. MAGA land is melting down a bit because of it. And I do think, though, that it shows their hypocrisy in very big ways, as you've noted. I want to switch gears and I want to talk to you about Texas. It's your state. It's a place that you represented as a state rep, and it's a place that you call home. We saw the tragedy from the Texas flash floods in Kerr County, and then we don't see the following. We don't see David Richardson, the head of FEMA, roll up to Texas until this past Saturday. And when he shows up,
his outfit, though, don't forget his outfit.
He looks like he's coming off a bender, this guy. I mean, check him out right now. Just shirt unbuttoned, rings on the fingers, and he's wearing, and another one, he's got a cowboy hat. But I mean, Congresswoman, talk about this letter that you sent from oversight to the Office of the Inspector General at the Department of Commerce. And I've on my show, I've said, listen, Commerce actually is taking care of NOAA and NWS and FEMA. Talk about why it's so important to get answers for the American people. As of today, there's 134 confirmed dead and 101 still missing.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things. So we sent out 3 investigatory letters. One was to the IG for Commerce. Another was to FEMA, and the other was to NOAA. And so we wanted to understand, number one, obviously oversight. I sit on the subcommittee for DOJ. That is a subcommittee of oversight. And we know that there had been firings that took place, right? So we want to understand what the firings look like, how that specifically impacted this particular incident, and what, if anything, we are doing to prevent similar incidents, other emergencies of any kind, from suffering the same fate. We know that through some great independent reporting that there is a clear allegation that some of these firings at FEMA that took place after the storm literally directly impacted the ability of FEMA to answer calls. In fact, they just weren't answering them, right? I think there was one day and it was like 1% of the calls that came in were answered. And so then we've got to dig into what does it look like as far as being able to predict that these events are going to happen with the firings over at NOAA and the National Weather Service. What does that look like? And as we move into some of these seasons that come in every year, despite the fact that our new FEMA head has no idea about things such as hurricane season, like, what does that look like too? Like, are we ready? Do we have enough people on staff to be able to do this? And then Commerce is really who we would look to understand, like, mechanisms, right? Like, what devices do you have to be able to alert people? They are the ones that are going to have the phone alerts. They are the ones that are going to have, potentially any links to like sirens and things like that. So getting an understanding from them, but obviously through additional independent reporting, it's become clear that the elected officials in Kerr County actually turned down federal dollars from the Biden-Harris administration because under the Biden-Harris administration, they were consistently making sure that they were doing what was right for the American people. It wasn't about partisanship by the time they got elected. And so while this is a Republican-controlled area, and while the state of Texas is obviously Republican-controlled too, they still didn't just say, forget it to Texas. They sent them money, and they literally were like, no, we don't want it, right? Unlike what we're seeing out of this administration when it comes down to states like California, who needed help during the fires, right? We see that this administration wants to say, well, I don't want to help blue states. The reality is that this administration don't want to help anybody, from what I can tell, because we know that there's other dollars that have been denied to a bunch of red states as well. Like, the one thing that people need to understand is that Trump is for Trump and Trump only. Like he says, America first. Like, just go ahead and rename America as Trump, okay? Because that is the only person that he cares about is himself and anybody that makes sure that he can continue to enrich himself. Anybody else, he could care less about.
Well, now you just gave him a good idea, which is terrible, because now he's going to run around calling it the United States of Trump, just like he calls it the Gulf of America, which, footnote, I just saw one of the Backstreet Boys actually said the Gulf of America, and it really made me disappointed. So here's the thing, though. I did cover the fact that Texas state and local officials, that they are also at fault. And look, what really kind of bothered me the most was this accusation that came straight out of the GOP's mouth, immediately accusing the Democrats of politicizing this, when the reality is the provision of these funds to be able to have these federal agencies work at a level of competency that protects all Americans is not a partisan moment. It's let's make sure that Texans specifically, as well as Floridians like me with hurricanes, wildfires in California, and frankly, even the storms that we saw in North Carolina, let's make sure that all Americans are getting the type of care and attention they deserve. But simultaneously, as a part of the DOGE cuts, right, we see things like climate change and the staffers that are dealing with this at the State Department, we see them getting canned. They're getting fired. And we see a wholesale abandonment by the Trump administration when it comes to climate change. I mean, in my opinion, Congresswoman, they're just setting Americans up to fail. This is only to either kill us or make us so miserable that we're never going to be able to overcome what's going on.
Literally, they're creating the perfect storm, right?
Yeah.
They are not doing the things that would allow for us to hopefully prevent some of these storms by making sure that we're cooling down the planet. And then after not doing the preventative care, they are deciding that they don't even want the warnings available to people. And then once they fail to warn them, after they fail to prevent the issues in the first place, they have decided that they would drag their feet. As we know, again, independent reporting, that literally she took 72 hours to even send aid to those folks. So we didn't prevent it. We didn't warn you about it. And then once you're finally literally in the eye of the storm, you don't do anything to help. What in the heck is federal government good for? Like at this point, like I'm just like, I don't even know why we're here. Why are we even pretending that we have a role? Because you have failed in every single place that you really should have been excelling, the areas that we really need you to do your job. And you're right, this isn't partisanship. Like I keep telling people that we are in a moral war right now. This is about the morality. Like we end up having Republicans that consistently want to co-opt Christianity and talk about how Christian they are, when it's clear that they are not very good on practicing. They are good in saying, but they are not good in practice. Because if they understood the word of God, then by gosh darn it, I can guarantee you that this doesn't look like loving thy neighbor. That's for sure. This doesn't look like taking care of the least of these. This doesn't look like any of the things that I think of when I think about what we can find in the Bible. But at the end of the day, as I keep telling people, if you looking for Jesus, then go to church. Don't look for Jesus within your politicians or your politics. Instead, what you need to be looking to your political leaders for is for them to problem solve and to make your lives better through the form of policy. And that is what we're missing. I'm just like, people don't understand our jobs. My job isn't to be your preacher at all. My job isn't to bring you to Christ. My job is to make sure that I am not doing everything that I can to bury you, but instead I'm doing everything to make sure that you live a wonderful life, and not just you, but your generations that are coming behind you.
Yeah, we call those Sunday Christians, the people that go and they act like they're all Christian. And then when they're not actually within the four corners and the brick and mortar of a church, then they're definitely failing. I mean, in Texas loves to do the 10 Commandments on the walls in the public schools. Yeah. And then we see Ken Paxton's wife very publicly posting on Twitter that she is biblically done with Ken Paxton. And that's a whole other conversation that you and I can have, my friend. Let's talk about red states, blue states. You mentioned them a couple of minutes ago when it comes to how it shouldn't be partisan aid and that the Biden-Harris administration made sure that the people who needed it got it. But you are always keeping the heat on Republicans and calling out the truth. And the one thing that I really appreciate as well about you is that we should not be moving on from the impact of the big bullshit bill because, one, the Republicans gamed it so that a lot of it's going to come out after the midterms. But two, there's so much going on that we should always be paying attention. So we're going to play a quick clip of you giving hell to some Republicans. So let's take a quick listen.
To be clear. In fact, I have another UC.
Without objection.
All right, blue states are bailing out red states. I have another UC.
Without objection.
Massachusetts sends more funding to the feds than any other state. It seems like blue states are constantly putting red states on life support, yet we got these little red states that ain't contributing nothing, but they are definitely taking up a lot of money. You know, it is interesting because the governor in California, I don't know if you caught this, but Governor Newsom was talking about just holding on to his dollars because California is what they call a donor state, meaning that they actually contribute more than they take from the federal government. And then you can go down south to states like Louisiana who are broke. And so they need California to pay in. So it is so interesting that we are so concerned about whether or not we are pushing certain ideologies. But let me talk about some of these. I've got a few questions. We're going to play.
I mean, I detect no lies. I mean, but this is the type of truth telling that we need from every member of Congress, because this is why people need to be reminded that the hypocrisy of those votes from the Republicans on that BBB, it's overwhelming. And yet now they're all sitting there patting each other on the back with these congratulatory kind of moves, thinking that they've just won it all, when the reality is they've screwed their own constituents out of present day life and futures that could be bright.
I don't know that they're really patting themselves on the back.
Oh, you think they're actually nervous about what just came out of this?
Oh my goodness. I mean, we saw one that resigned immediately after his vote, right?
True.
We have probably a couple more that will ultimately decide that they're not going to seek reelection. We saw Don Bacon, who decided that he won't seek reelection. He did not resign immediately. We saw Tom Tillis on the Senate side, who actually voted the right way ultimately as it relates to the Senate bill itself, but we saw him say, never mind, I'm just not going to seek reelection. So I will tell you that there are very few that will do what is right, that will stand on their principles. And granted, I think that there should have been more no votes on this bill, but where we would be coming from, our reason and our rationale for the no votes, completely different, right? Like Thomas Massie is facing his own headwinds from the Republicans because he has been very consistent, but he is truly a fiscal conservative. So he's like, no, I'm not okay with increasing the debt and raising the debt ceiling. And for what? Like, we have nothing to show for it. Do I think that Thomas Massie would have been okay with kicking everybody off of Medicaid if it meant that we'd balance the budget? Probably. Like, for us as Democrats, like, we don't think that that's necessarily a good thing. But at the end of the day, I think it's easier for me to respect someone and be able to engage in real, what I would consider to be legislating, if I know where you stand, if I know your values. But right now, it is clear that the Republicans don't have values, right? Like, their values are what they are told that they need to be in that moment. Even if in their gut, they're like, this is terrible, right? Like, we have footage of so many of them. You can run the tape. Democrats are lying. We're not going to cut Medicaid. We're not going to cut Medicaid. We're like, we can do math. The only way you're going to get there is if you cut Medicaid, and you voted for the House resolution that said that's where we were going, that laid the framework. This is what you said. And ultimately, that is what happened. So no, we weren't lying, but it's going to hurt more of your constituents than ours. So I'm sure as part of some of those meetings, they said, don't worry about it. You know, Democrats suck at messaging. We've got all the Fox News hosts in the cabinet. We'll make sure we get the messaging out. We'll make sure we run lying ads. The people won't know the difference. And guess what? We'll wait until after the midterms so that we can still have the trifecta. So people will say, no, the Democrats lied to us. They said 17 million people were going to lose their health care, and I've not met one yet. So no, the Democrats lied. The reality is that the devil is in the details. they don't want it to go into effect before the midterms. You tell me, if this is such a great thing, why wouldn't you want it to go into effect immediately? You put those tax deductions in immediately. Those good rich billionaires, they're about to get their coins immediately. So why wouldn't you put this into effect immediately? Yeah.
How can we take what you just said in the last, I don't know, 2 minutes, not even, and amplify that though? Because I feel like there's that disconnect between the truth and what people are actually listening to.
Listen, I will tell you this. It is very difficult sometimes to communicate what all is happening, especially when you're talking about a bill that is 1,000 pages.
Yeah. Which you and I both know a lot of those Republicans didn't read it, but keep on going.
Correct. And the reason that it makes it so difficult is because everybody has their own issue. Like, you can be a Democrat, but you're not a monolith. You can be Black, but you're not a monolith. You can be Asian, but you're not a monolith. You can be Hispanic. You could be a Texan. You could be whoever, and you're not a monolith. So there is something that, doesn't necessarily really hit you like other things. So what I've been doing is I talk about the bill. I've actually been talking about, forget the fact that 17 million people are going to be kicked off their health insurance, because chances are you may or may not have Medicaid, right? Like, we've got hundreds of millions of people that live in this country. So 17 million isn't necessarily everybody, right? So maybe you're like, not my issue, right? But then if you think about, well, does your grandmother, does your aunt, does your mother, does your father, do they have Medicaid? And what happens, and who's going to help them if something happens, right? It's going to be you. Or I've been trying to explain to people, when you pull $1 trillion out of the healthcare ecosystem that has never worked like it should in this country, you pull $1 trillion out. Do you think it's just going to reappear out of like thin air? Do you think people going to stop getting sick because you pulled the money? You're like, oh, there's no more money, so now we're all healed. That's not going to happen. What's going to happen is this hospital, you think you got this good insurance, but that's not going to necessarily mean that the doors of the hospital are going to stay open for when you need it, because we all technically pay into the hospital, right?
Yep.
Like, I don't get sick today. Maybe my neighbor is sick today, right? So they go in and then they're spending money. Maybe I'm sick a month from now, then I go in, I spend money, right? But if you're literally pulling $1 trillion out, it's impacting all of us. So that specialist, he may not be at the hospital anymore. That hospital, it may be closing. Your health insurance premiums, they're most likely going to go up. And in fact, we have the numbers. The health insurance premiums are going to go up. So this is an all of us problem when it comes to the healthcare aspect, when it comes to the food aspect of them cutting out SNAP benefits. If you already thought food was high, well, it's going to get higher, because when you pull hundreds of billions of dollars out of the food ecosystem, it's going to impact everybody. That farmer who needs to hopefully save his farm, he's most likely going to have to charge more money. That grocery store that needs to make sure it can keep its doors open, they're going to have to charge more money. They are not only pulling money away from those that need it the most, but they're pulling money away from us as well. Like, even if you aren't receiving these benefits, it is going to hit your pockets on top of the fact. Compound that with this idiotic tariff war that the Republicans refuse to rein him in on.
He's like running out of countries on the tariffs, by the way. He just keeps on slapping tariffs on everything and everywhere that moves. We're waiting for him to slap tariffs on the penguins, right? I mean, I'm not joking, right? Like, he literally is just making up shit as he goes along. And the ignorance of a big portion of America, though, is thinking that those tariffs, that those costs are not going to be passed down to the American people.
Yeah. No, I mean, what was so frustrating is that there's a lot of bad things that I can say about Donald Trump, and I would be sitting here for years if I had to go through everything bad. But what I will tell you is that as much of a liar as he is, he at least was honest and said, hey, I'm going to put tariffs up. Like, we're going to do tariffs.
Oh, yeah. He does what he says he's going to do.
The problem is that, like, people didn't understand what a tariff was. And now they're finding out, right? And now I think they said the number one Google thing after the election was, what is a tariff? A little too late. We needed to have that Google going beforehand and saying, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. I'm not going to do that. Me and my pockets, we not down for this, right? Like, that's what we needed to do. And Democrats, again, kept saying, hey, he's going to put a tax on you. He's like, no. They're going to pay for it. Kind of like Mexico was going to pay for that wall that we still don't have, right? Like, it is crazy, because as far as I can see, you and I both know, as trial attorneys, right? Like one of the things I used to like to do when I was picking a jury was I wanted to do my best to build a solid rapport.
Yes.
Because if things came down to like, oh, I don't know which way to go,
I'm going to go with the one I like. Exactly.
I'm going to go with the one that I like, right? And so I think that that's really the biggest issue that we have. Democrats are trustworthy. We ain't the ones that's got, a million convictions and all the things. And when somebody does something wrong, the Democrats would take them out before anybody else. And, all this, but for whatever reason, we are not trusted. They trust the con man. They trust the convict because we told them Project 2025 was a real thing. He said, I don't know nothing about it. We ain't doing that. And where are we? We in the middle of Project 2025. And who is it that's running the budget office? Oh, a Project 2025 author, right? Like everything is Project 2025, right? But like we said it and people were like, y'all lying. Not really, right? Like we said, hey, the tariffs are going to be a tax on you. They were like, nah, y'all lying. He said, I'm okay. So it comes down to who people trust. And the bigger question is like, why is it that we're not trusted? Like, why? Like, why don't the American people trust us? And why is it that they would trust him over us?
Because he's a con man and he knows how to run the con the right way. And the problem we have is there's not enough fighters, which kind of leads me to my last question for you, which is this. You are the walking epitome of good trouble. I've told you this. I'm a cage rattler too, right? I mean, this is part of the reason why we're such good friends. But we've got Good Trouble Lives On coming up on Thursday. In the memory and the honoring of John Lewis. I just kind of want your quick thoughts about kind of the legacy of John Lewis and how that fits with what we're trying to do to galvanize American people to not only protest, but I like to say to make them activated and engaged, and however that works for them, by the way, whether it's a protest or not. This idea of being activated and engaged, I believe, is how people actually are going to get us across the finish line.
Yeah. So, there's always this conversation about who our leader is. Like people are always, who's leading us? Who's leading us? Right. And I keep turning this back on the people and telling them that you need to look in the mirror. We are who we've been waiting for. And I think that John Lewis can be such an inspiration for taking that particular stance. When you know the history of him, you're allowed to know, whatever is allowed to be taught, then you would know that we're talking about someone that got involved in the movement as a young, I don't even want to say man, he was a kid. He was a kid. And here it was that he saw these big giants that were doing things and he just decided he wanted to be in the middle of it. And so he was trained up by the best of the civil rights kind of leaders. And here it is that ultimately he became this bigger than life figure himself. But he started this journey so very young. So number one, young people have always been the leaders in our movements. It's always been young people. I know when you are recapping and you're reading history and everyone seems like they're old, but as I've said at a number of commencements that I've delivered, commencement speeches, I am, excuse me.
God bless you.
It is DC. Oh, Jesus. But I am older than Malcolm was when he was assassinated. I am older than Martin was when he was assassinated. I am older than Medgar was when he was assassinated. So like that tells you that it really is young people. And in this moment, I know that young people feel like there is this old guard and that they don't have a place. And my message to them is also the message of someone who was told that she didn't have a place, and that's Shirley Chisholm, right? And so you make your place. And historically, we have never been invited to have a seat at the table. We have always had to say, you know what? This is the life that I want for myself and my future for whoever is coming behind me. And so I want people to be encouraged. Do not feel powerless. Think about what it is that John Lewis would do. And I would say, what would John Lewis do in this moment? For anybody that wonders who they would have been in the midst of the civil rights movement, let me tell you, we are there now. They are snatching people off of streets, whether they're citizens or not, whether they are documented or not, and they are throwing them in cages. This is our moment to rise up. It will take the people. And I have seen what y'all did on No Kings. This is the kind of energy that you need to keep up at all times, because we are in an all-out fight for what is right in this country, for what this country stands for. Today, in that very same hearing that you played a clip of, do you know that these Republicans were praising Viktor Orban? Like, what are we talking about? Like, and they were all obsessed. And I'm like, do y'all know who he is? Do y'all, because I had to read some of that, all them papers I was reading for them, because I needed them to have some facts. Like, and literally, one of the articles that I read said that Trump has done in 2 months what it took Viktor Orban to do in 15 years. 15 years. Like, Trump is like speeding right through it. And it talked about autocracy, and it talked about like literally gutting democracy. But right now there is a rising up in Hungary right now, because what they are doing is they said, finally, it seems like the parliament is coming together. If we could get Congress to come together and just stop him, because right is right and wrong is wrong, then we would all be better for it. Nobody's asking anybody to be partisan. But is it wrong to literally take food out of children's mouths? Yes. Period. Don't care who you are. Is it wrong to take healthcare from people, and we have estimates of the amount of people that are going to die, even though it is hard to estimate that? We know that people are going to die. Is that wrong? Yes. Is it wrong to defund FEMA when we know that we are experiencing these crazy weather events all over the country? Yeah. This is right and wrong. This isn't partisanship. And so the fact that we could come together when it came down to Nixon and do what was right. And right now, Nixon looks like a Boy Scout. So I just wish we could find some people that had an actual moral compass who just want to do what's right. And right now, I can count on maybe one hand, just a couple of people. They won't fill up the hand. But obviously, Thomas Massie, again, at least stands by what he believes in.
Well, look, I think I have been saying that Congress and the judiciary need to find their spines, that the idea of a co-equal branch of government was not something that I generated out of fiction.
Nope.
It's something that was basic civics. But I think the reality is, if everybody kind of found their own version of good trouble on both sides of the aisle, a lot more would be done in a way that could benefit all of us.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm grateful for somebody like you that has the courage to always stand for the right thing. I've always said too, I don't want my daughter to ever look back at this moment and ask me, well, what were you doing, Mom?
Yeah.
Like, what did you do when it was this critical to make sure that we were all going to be okay? I don't want to hang my head in shame and act like I, wanted to do something but couldn't. Yeah. And when you think about the level of the fight and the trauma and the loss that the civil rights leaders had to go through at those young ages that you mentioned, like John Lewis, you know how scary it must have been for them? Yeah. They were just young people, and yet they found the courage to do it. And that's what we have to do. So Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, I appreciate you joining me here at the Katie Phang News Channel. It's always good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
Katie Phang here. We launched the Katie Phang News Channel in partnership with the Midas Touch Network so we could bring you the latest in legal and political news. Straight, no chaser. So if you're a fellow truth teller, hit that subscribe button and share the word about this channel so we can build a high information America together.